Hey, everybody, this is Andy Hall of the Naked Diner podcast. And with me, as always, is Jack Maturko.
Hello. We're back.
And we are back because this is the first episode
of season 2.
We're officially back.
Yes.
Right? Pretty exciting.
Very
we have
exciting.
a great guest. Who's the great guest, Jack?
Travis LaSaffre. He is chapter head of the Satanic Temple-Boston.
Boston.
Up your way.
Yeah, up my way. That's right. The best way possible. Right. I actually met Travis a couple of times, hung out with him, chatted. He's a good guy.
I can't
Funny
say
guy.
the best way possible because the Arizona chapter and the Boston chapter are locked in a feud over the Satanic Temple's virtual run for reproductive rights.
Yes, there's been smack talking.
There has been some smack talking and some YouTube videos and some team designs.
Now, people,
and it's all for a good cause.
Oh yeah, sure. People who are listening may be wondering, is there a section about competitive eating in this episode? And I would say no, there's nothing about. Well, maybe there is. Maybe there is something about competitive eating in this particular episode, but you'll have to listen to find out.
There's running for charity and competitive eating for charity, and well,
but, I want to tell you something.
Activism, but
you want to know what I'm afraid of? You want to know about one of the many things I'm afraid of?
What's that?
Okay, so we're doing this via Skype, right?
Uh-huh.
So on the advertisement, because those of you who use Skype knows that there's ads, there seems to be some kind of like insulin pen that is an ad here that I'm looking at right now. And I'm thinking, do they know something I don't? Because you know how good advertising is, right? You know how good advertising is.
Big data has decided that you have diabetes.
It's like, do they know I have diabetes before I know I have diabetes?
Well, if you didn't Google food all the time.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that is my downfall.
You need to turn on Safe Search before you go looking at your food porn, Andy.
Incognito tab engaged.
So, yeah, Travis came on, and he told us about all the cool stuff that the Boston chapter is doing. Talked about their Menstruatin with Satan campaign, which is a really cool idea. Smart
guy, good conversation. I believe we had a good cadence. We took some time off, obviously, a couple of months off, but I feel like we have good banter. Once you have good rhythm, you have good rhythm. That's what I think, Jack Maturko.
I think you're probably right, Andy.
It's like riding a bike.
Yeah. So, all right, let's get into it.
Into the episode. Here we go. So, Travis, I can't even do Sam Harris's voice. Sam Harris has this velvet voice that I was going to try to do a bit on that, but I can't. I just can't do it. So, Travis, how do you pronounce your last name? Jack.
We go with LaSaffre. So pretend there's no R at the end. Yeah.
Okay.
Is that what you were saying, Jack?
I said LaSaffre, but I can fix that in post.
I mean, you can really go with whatever, and no one cares. I don't really care.
No one really cares. That's good, man. So, hey, glad to have you on the Naked Diner podcast.
Awesome. Good to be here.
Yeah. So for people who don't know who you are, just to let you know that Jack and I did the intro before we actually start talking with our guest. And so we've told people that you are the chapter head of the Satanic Temple in Boston.
Awesome. Do you want me to go through the usual spiel I do about who I am and my functionality, or do you have a more specific?
Actually, before we go into the spiel, I want to know about what the fuck a heavy leather dance party is, and what does it have to do with eggs?
Okay, so this week we got a invite to go to the Heavy Leather Dance Party in Somerville, which is a public access TV show run by some what I would consider to be like old school rock and rollers, sort of a rockabilly phase, I guess, is still going on over there. So we headed out, and they challenged us to a deviled egg eating contest for charity. So the goal was whoever could eat the most deviled eggs would have the loser donate to the charity of their choice. And I don't really know why this happened. The host came up with the idea, and I hard passed on this. I was like, I'm not doing that at all. But I'll see if I can get some friends to. I convinced 2 members to saddle up, and they trained long and hard by eating a lot of deviled eggs before the competition. they showed up and they devastated the host of the of the local access TV show. So I think it was 37 eggs versus 20. Like that's a big gap.
That's a dominating win, my friend.
Yeah, the smell was also dominating. I'll tell you that right now.
So what was the competition? Was it within like a minute or two, or how was it structured?
So I thought we were doing like a hard minute, as many eggs as you could. And they were like, no, we're going to make it a marathon, 5 minutes, as many eggs as you can. And I walked into the heated studio with these lights that are probably make the room 80 degrees. I don't know. It's hot in there. And there are 15 eggs on each plate. There are 4 plates out. And then there is a reserve 40 eggs sitting in a bin.
Just in case you get through.
Just in case. And the 2 hosts were coming in saying like, "Oh, don't worry, I've eaten eggs before." And I was like, "Everyone's eaten an egg before, dude. Like, I don't think you know what you're walking into." Like, so yeah, it was sort of a team challenge 2v2.
So what charity did you guys kick the money to?
We kicked it towards the Menstruatin with Satan campaign that Boston runs. Really happy to see that other chapters have sort of picked up the mantle of Menstruatin with Satan. And for anyone that doesn't know, it's a charity sort of focused on enhancing the conversation around the fact that menstruation is something that happens. It is not something that can be really avoided. I know that a lot of people want to just cross that off on the list of things we have to teach in school and talk about. But like, guess what? Stuff comes out of there and we got to deal with it. And the overall goal is to help generate donations and funding and product donations of tampons, pads, menstrual cups, anything of that variety, to sort of channel towards lower income and homeless communities in the Boston area, and it's spread to other areas throughout the U.S.
Yeah, I thought that was a really interesting idea in the long term, because it genuinely is something that no one thinks about when they go to a store and there's like a food drive or something like that.
Yeah, no one wants to like recognize clearly and openly that like, hey, there's a lot of homeless women that have this thing that happens to them biologically that they can't be like, hey guys, don't have money this month, shut it down. Yeah. Like, as opposed to what every Republican senator is saying right now when they're pushing their agenda of this, the woman's body can shut down the rapes and the periods. I mean, I think we'd be in a very different place if they could, but they can't. So we're really trying to focus on this idea that, only 15 states in the U.S. as a whole have turned off the tax on tampons. Everywhere else has this luxury tax on the product. It's taxed like any other product, which is sort of absurd, considering this isn't really something that a normal person can just ignore. Otherwise, they'll end up with toxic shock syndrome, soiling a lot of great clothes they just purchased. That variety of issue is definitely underrepresented in the plight of homeless women. Mm-hmm.
So how much have you been able to donate to local women's shelters in Boston? So
far, we have a $155 donation I need to manually ship in, as well as about another $100 donation. Both came from a hardcore and metal show that came a little while ago, and then a T-shirt sale that happened shortly after that, respectively. Additionally, we've donated about $1,500 worth of product to Rosie's Place in Boston. That includes pads, tampons, menstrual cups. We did additionally for other groups, we've collected things like adult diapers and products that are required for the area, but not really collected as often. Mm-hmm,
mm-hmm. So does Rosie's Place state publicly that they're accepting donations from the Satanic Temple? Or are they just doing it kind of, quiet?
I don't think no one really seems to state where they're taking donations from. They really haven't shunned us at all. They were like, you doing your thing, keep doing it. And that's really, I think, the best way for most charities to handle interacting with any religion. I feel like as soon as we end up with someone saying like, oh no, this diocese of the Catholic Church donated this money and they've been linked in with a pedophilic priest, we're going to end up with, there's going to be like endless witch hunts if we get in that area. So I'm happy with them just, take these, give these to the people that need it, and send me a letter addressed to Satan Guy later, and we'll have a good laugh.
Right. So, Travis, let's say you're in an elevator with an atheist, and he says, and you guys are trapped. Well, maybe you're in between floors. You got like 30 seconds. And he turns to you and he goes, and you know what I'm going to ask you. He's going to say Satanism. How is that? How is the Satanic Temple a religion? How does that work? And
I'll just quickly spout this off, I think, as fast as I can. Satanism is this idea of a faith built on this constant objectivism to the modern world. Satan, as a definition in the dictionary, ends up with this idea of otherness. We are the other to the massive, monolithic Christian zeitgeist in America.
That's pretty good.
It's a good pitch.
And and then I would smash that stop floor button and be like, hey, we're going to talk about Satan as a metaphor right now. And I'm sure he would be trying to find the panic button as I open up my backpack and start pulling out books and showing him, like, hey, you got to listen to this for a minute.
You're going to sit here while I read Milton at you.
Yeah. I got these books and I have them highlighted and you're going to listen.
But that has become a thing. Where one of the things that's really weird about the Satanic Temple is whenever you read about them in the press, the press is always calling them, like a political activist group, or they really shy away from calling them a religion. And I think that's weird. And I don't know why that happens.
I feel like it happens because there is political activism as sort of a forefront of the religion. This idea that living through the tenets, the 7 tenets are clearly built and constructed around this idea of doing and acting, and not sort of armchair philosophy, which a lot of other religions tend to have. Instead of having a list of things you shouldn't do, it has a list of things you should do, and I think that's very rare for a faith.
Yeah. There's also this. I think there's also, because it's non-theistic, there's this weird kind of mingling that goes on with the atheistic community.
Yeah, I think that it's sort of a unique situation because the Satanic Temple as a whole catches a lot of flack from theistic Satanists, from atheists, from other non-theistic Satanists that don't think that we're wearing enough black or reading enough plagiarized books that their author wrote like 30 years ago, and he's like super dead. So, or not 30, like 50 years ago now. I keep forgetting it's, we're nearing 2020 as time goes on. But yeah, I think that there's sort of this unique struggle of trying to define Satanism the way that people are trying to define Christianity, where if you were to say, the only real Satanists are a Church of Satan, or the only real Satanists are a Satanic Temple, you're going to end up looking kind of like an idiot, because you're trying to group everyone together. That would be like saying the only real sandwich is a chicken sandwich.
Yeah,
and if you even fucking put bacon in that, I'm going to throw it against the wall.
It's a no true Scotsman fallacy.
Yeah, and it's difficult. And I think that there's room for everybody's flavor of weird. We just all got to be weird in a respectful manner.
You want to talk about any kind of conflicts or run-ins with the Satanic Church?
Yeah, Church of Satan, I think overall is a pretty great group of people. I feel like the interactions that I've had once they find out that I'm a member of TST becomes real shitty real fast.
Really?
Yeah, and I think a lot of that has to deal with just it's stereotyping and this idea that, someone in our group said that someone in your group is an idiot, so you're an idiot, and then that sort of spirals out of control on both sides. I'm definitely not going to say that members of TST aren't guilty of that. And because I've definitely sort of seen it on both sides. But I will say that unprovoked, I will post something on Facebook and then just get a message being like, "You're a joke. I hope you die," all this stuff. And I'm like, dude, calm down. I know you're busy playing with daggers in your mom's basement, but I'm just trying to do something a little bit different, and it's okay. You're going to be fine. I'm sure, if you ask your mom for some more chicken tenders, she'll send them down.
I don't know about that, though. I mean, I have seen, at our local Planned Parenthood, I know that there is a TST member and a COS member who are both working there, volunteering time.
Yeah, no, I definitely...
They get along great. So... Yeah. That kind of thing. There's room there. It's just a matter of figuring out what those discussions are and where you can find common ground.
I think almost all of it deals with something I'm going to call the East Coast mentality, which is hey, you're slightly different than me. You should die. And that's like something that's like very strong here. And I'm noticing the more I talk to anybody on the West Coast, the more I talk to anybody in sort of central to Midwest, what I really hear is the fact that this East Coast mentality of, you have to agree with every single thing I like, or you're the worst kind of person, is growing more and more. This divisionist agenda is sort of a real problem in not only what I would say the East Coast, but like Boston specifically. I cannot think of a subculture in Boston that I've participated in where there hasn't been some like, yo, I heard this guy didn't like the newest Star Wars. He's probably a rapist because I said so. And it's like crazy. Like there's no like middle ground, and I would love to see a middle ground. I'd love to see people be like, hey, I see what you're saying. I politely disagree. But I think that a lot of the issues come from the fact that we're on the East Coast and we have this sort of like, I'll fight you right now, like right here for no real reason. But after, I'll see you in a bar and pretend we never met.
Well, I think, and I was talking to Andy about this a little bit before in the intro. One of the things is if you're in like the Northeast where everything's a blue state and it's predominantly, politically left. What you have is a situation where the stuff that's happening, you're kind of making you're picking on issues. It's narrowed down to very specific issues. Whereas you get into places like here in Arizona or in Utah or something like that, where it's deep red states, you have people who are just like, no, we're turning the volume down on all this little shit that we don't agree on, and let's just focus on the big things.
Yeah, I think that's the main issue that we're dealing with here, and like I'll say it right now, like I've met some church and state members that are cool, and we're great people, and we've avoided the conversations about politics, but I definitely feel that maybe some bridges were burnt with a lot of the sort of local activism that happened pre-establishment of the Boston chapter. I know that a lot of religious groups, whether they be Wiccan or COS based, really find that TST's rituals can be sort of too sort of out there and not based in an older book, so they get kind of sad because they're like, hey, my book's older and you should listen to it. And I think that mainly things like the Black Mass that Lucian Greaves led really made people pretty butthurt because they felt like they were being co-opted. And it was just simply a misunderstanding that like, hey, a lot of people have used the term Black Mass. You don't get to call dibs. And again, I think it speaks exactly to what you were saying, Jack, that there's this sort of idea that like, hey, no, this is ours. This is my tiny stake of land, and we're going to keep it because I got nothing else to argue you on because you're overall an upstanding person.
Yeah. So how long has the Boston chapter been around for?
This month, now a full year.
Yay. Congratulations.
It's been great. Not too many death threats, and only one time I had to scream at a reporter in his face, but it's pretty good. We're doing pretty good here.
So what did it said reporter do to warrant you yelling?
So we requested an invocation with the Boston City Council, and of course they were like, no, we're all set, because that's what you do when you're the Boston City Council. You just pretend it's not a problem until the entire city's collapsing. But basically, the Boston Globe ran a story, and the Boston Herald, being the Boston Herald, decided that they would, run the same story. But instead of simply calling me or emailing me, they emailed Lucian. Lucian didn't respond right away, so their exact next choice was to show up at my house unannounced at around 9 p.m.
That's not cool.
That was right after I had just promised my wife, no one will show up at the house for this. This is not whatever happened. Like those words left my mouth probably 30 minutes before this guy shows up on my front porch. So
was it just one dude, or was there like a camera crew with him?
It was a dude and a camera guy that was like hiding in my bushes, like watching. And it was so uncomfortable. I opened the door and I look out at this man in like a suit and tie, and I'm like, oh no, like this isn't good. Right. And my first response is, how did you find me? Which probably, wasn't a good opener to that conversation. but he definitely was not really expecting. I think he was expecting someone older and or sadder than like a 28-year-old who threw the door open and immediately was like, "What the fuck do you want?" in his face. Like,
because it was 9:00. Were you in your formal pajama wear, evening wear? No, when people think of Satanists, they think of all black and the eyeliner. Were you in satanic garb?
I wish I was in my robes and my my shawls, but I didn't. It wasn't robe time yet, so I was still in my like t-shirt and jeans from work. Just came out just immediately being like, "What do you want?" And walk outside in this porch and start like basically being like, "You understand that I'm a human, and if I showed up at your house at this time, you would be rather upset." And he goes, "Oh no, I wouldn't, because I'm a reporter." And then I was like, "Can I have your address and I can show up when you're, at your house?" And he didn't like that either. So I gave him quite a stern, it wasn't a talking to. I was straight up screaming at this guy's face. Like my neighbors were looking out windows and stuff. And then I was like, "All right, now you can have your interview. But if you post anything that I don't like, believe me, you'll be hearing from me a lot more." So I think that might have made him write a more favorable article than he originally was preparing to.
Good for you, man. So do they teach you that stratagem at the Satanic Temple head chapter's training camp?
Yeah, I think the training camp is good luck. Here you go. And that's sort of what I think is so great about the idea of this Satanic Temple, is that you're sort of given this ability to represent a larger group, but you're also told like, "Hey, you messed this up. You're on your own." And I think that's really key to this idea of individualism that Satanism, pushes so hard.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So what have been some of what you can speak of, what have been some of the challenges about getting the organization in Boston off the ground? It's a young organization. I'm sure you're still like building up the people and everything, the membership. But what have been some of the other issues besides people showing up at 9:00 at night at your door?
I would say that a lot of areas in Boston just don't want to deal with us because they're like, I don't want to explain that to somebody else. Just don't come here. And I fully understand that. Like, I wouldn't be super amped if I were a small local business and a guy, with the email address at Satanic Temple-Boston is like, "Hey, what are you doing? Can we, host an event here?" Like, I wouldn't want to learn more. I'd be like, "Get out of here, nerd. Like, what are you doing?" So I feel like that's sort of been a hurdle. And I think the biggest hurdle is the slacktivism that is really sort of key to this new era of politics, where everyone wants to be part of something, but no one wants to do anything. So I got people being like, "I want to be a Satanist," and I'm like, "Do you know what that means? Like, do you know this is like actually a religion that's based off of historical texts, and I'd expect you to read them and understand them and be able to articulate yourself." And they're like, "But I just bought this Black Craft T-shirt, man." And I think that is like super, super sad, because I feel like that's something that, maybe is what has led to some of the negative connotations that Church of Satan members might feel that they're under, because they're seeing these new people being like, "Well, we're Satanists now too," because I see a lot of it and I'm like, "You guys are idiots." So I'm sure they see us as like, "Wow, look at these idiots." So I understand a lot of their frustration, because I'm starting to have it too. I would say that one of the biggest struggles being a chapter head is finding a good way to scare away the normies and the complete idiots. Because I don't really want to deal with somebody that's like, "I'm going to join, but I want you to do this and that for me. And all I really care about is this small subset of issues. And I don't care about, the religious aspect. I just want you to be my personal army." And I wish people said that up front, but people just wait, They do like one good thing for me, and it's not really great. On like the scale of 1 to 10, it would be like a 2, comparable to them being like, "Yo, dude, your shoe's untied." And I'm like, "Oh, thanks." Right. And then they expect me to like move the earth for them. And like, I appreciate that there's a lot of oppression in this world, and there's a lot of oppressed minority groups, but literally can't help every single person at the same time. It's like a pick and choose the battle. Pick and choose where we want to push for empathy, where we want to push for scientific reason. And I recently had a member quit just last night after throwing what I can only describe as a hissy shit fit, because I couldn't answer one of their questions right away, besides saying, "Because that's not my fucking problem." And I think that's sort of like one of the bigger issues that any organization faces is as you're growing, you're going to find people that suck. And just by the law of averages, most people suck.
I think you're right in that what I've seen, following the TST boards and whatnot, is there's a lot of people who are trying to come in and want to just kind of appropriate the name for their own causes.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest issue.
Amount of that. Somebody's just like, oh, well, if I put this label on my thing, then all of a sudden it gets more press attention, and
And I think that's something that's happening a lot. And I'm definitely not trying to single out a specific group, and I definitely don't want this to become like you're ignorant or whatever moment. But I'm seeing a lot more sort of fringe groups of society come out. Like, I saw a furry show up and be like, well, this is my religion, so you need to respect the fact that I am also a furry, and that we need to make sure that and I immediately blocked that person from every form of social media. It's like, I get that, everybody wants to be accepted, but the least effective way to get accepted is to join a fringe religion, and then immediately try to make that fringe religion bow to your whim, especially when that religion is based off of individualism and this free thinking and logic-based system.
Hey gang, this is just the part of the show where I break in and remind you that if you're in the market for some audiobooks, you can get some through audible.com. Audible.com has over 180,000 titles. You can get a free 30-day trial and a free audiobook download by going to audibletrial.com/nakeddiner and signing up there. I'd also like to remind you that if you like the show and you want to help support the Naked Diner, you can do so by going to zxh-creative.com and using the Amazon search links and store at that site to do your Amazon shopping. It helps us out. We get a little bit from every sale that happens that way, and it, helps keep the lights on around here. We're going to get back to the show in just a second, but first we have a very special announcement in honor of our guest this week, Travis, and then we'll get right back into it. The Arizona desert. An untamed landscape of dust and venom. Heat, which forges and hardens its inhabitants like a crucible, imbued with the hard-fought spirit of the American West.
Boston, some New England college town known for boiling fish and milk and a funny accent.
Your Arizona exercising demons versus the Upside Down Cross Country. Locked in competition in the Satanic Temple, New York's virtual run for reproductive rights. Who will win?
Why are we even asking?
Support the virtual run for reproductive rights and sign up yourself at thesatanictemple.nyc.com.
So there is a virtual reproductive rights run going on. Tell me about that.
So this is actually a wonderful event created by New York. And New York is one of those places that I think is super, super awesome at doing the events that can be used nationally. The Reproductive Run is a fundraiser. You spread awareness and spend a little bit of money to sign up and register, and it goes towards a variety of charities focused on the reproductive rights campaign. We're doing a aspect of it in Boston called the Upside Down Cross Country Team, because we love puns between menstruating with Satan and this one, Upside Down Cross is always cute and fun. Where we're going to do sort of a bar crawl, because if you've met my chapter, you've seen the way that we move is not quick or like artful. We're more of like a can we lay down here sort of chapter.
Like sounds very schleppy. That's what it sounds like. Very schleppy. If we could meet in a Sleepy's mattress store, we very much would. But yeah, we'll be doing sort of a historical bar crawl where everyone's going to register. We all made our own cute little shirts, and we're going to go for basically a historical walk around Boston that covers 6.66 kilometers, because, that's nice, cute, and tacky. And that'll be sort of our version of it. It's doubly satanic because it's 666 and it's not in miles.
Yeah, I think that if there were any satanic measurement system, it would for sure be metric.
Oh, completely.
Definitely not the most sacred of like Jesus definitely counted miles.
He had feet.
He did.
That's how you grade distance right there in the feet, the Jesus feet.
Jesus feet. But I guess it's kind of hard, though, because there's a hole in the middle.
Right. So how did you become the chapter head of the Boston chapter?
So I ended up, I was watching closely since the, pre-unveiling of the statue, past unveiling of the Boston statue. And then I reached out a while ago, probably 2-something years ago, and I was like, hey guys, I'm really interested and I would like to be involved. I see you don't have a Boston chapter. Is anyone thinking of starting one? And they were like, we're all set right now, because they were dealing with the unbelievable amount of inquiries about joining TST following the unveiling of the statue. So about a year later, I got an email from Malcolm and Lucian saying, why don't you come meet us at a bar in Cambridge and we'll have a little chit chat about what your ideas are and what you're doing. And I went out there. We had a great talk. Made a lot of very inappropriate jokes that made people uncomfortable around us. Mm-hmm. And they were like, "Yeah, you're pretty good. We give you like a 7 out of 10 or so. So here's some paperwork. Fill this out." And after that, I sort of slowly started building the chapter from there.
Very good. So what's the most unexpected? So let's say that there are people listening right now who are in cities that are ripe for chapter heads. What kind of advice would you give them? What's unexpected out of your journey of being of being the chapter head?
I would say that before you even think about becoming a chapter head or getting involved in TST, start your own small group, your small collective, and do test runs of things. If you don't know the amount of work that's about to land on your lap, that you are going to burn out in hours. I've seen people come in with, lofty ideas and then realize that hey, this is a lot of your time and your energy and your effort need to go into this. This isn't something you get to join and be like, hey guys, check out my membership card. Isn't it cool? Where the ladies at? That's not how this works. There's a lot more work in the idea that you are a authority figure of sorts within a already small outcast group of people. You need to be able to communicate well. You need to be able to work within other communities and bolster support slowly. And you need to make sure that the things you're doing meet an end. There's no point in really raising the flag, rallying the troops, and yelling if it doesn't really match the idea of the religious organization. I think that's something that people are sort of losing track of.
Right. How many hours a week do you put in?
More than I should. I would say I'm probably given the amount of communication I put in and checking in on venues and checking in on tasks, probably around 20 hours during the work week, which is not super great. And then I do at least 4 hours a day on each weekend day to make sure that things are moving, in the right place.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Do you no, go ahead.
I was going to say it's still another work week on top of a work week.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Well, that's why you get paid so much for your position.
Yeah. All the $0 I make is really helping me out right now.
It makes your taxes a lot easier, my friend, for that purely volunteer position you're at.
Sure does. I think one thing that a lot of people sort of are forgetting is that one of the major aspects of TST that is sort of left by the wayside is this idea that we're a religious organization as well as an activist group, and I'm definitely pushing my members more and more to be out doing the sort of religious work that I expect. So that includes actually living by the tenets and not using them as a terrible argument online when you're not prepared to actually answer a real question. That includes considering and living through the history of Satanism. So while I might not agree with a lot of what LaVey wrote and or copy pasted from another book, I do think that there's a lot of sort of useful ideas within that are important. And while I don't think that ritual is something that is critical to the faith of TST or really required at all, I think that having some variety of ritual, having some variety of meditation or some sort of scientific background behind what you're doing, it definitely helps sort of level the mind and make your next events less insane.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Less insane. I think that's good.
That's really the goal, is make people think like for at least 10 minutes before they post online. That would be great. Like, are you sure you want to call me that? And are you sure you want that on the internet forever?
I think you should do a YouTube series, like an online seminar, maybe about just doing that 10-second rule right there.
Yeah.
How not to post shit that you'll be ashamed of in 5 years.
If you are going to shit post, it better be a dank meme, and then if it's not that, just throw it out. Like, it's not worth your time.
It sounds like there's an algorithm there somewhere.
Yeah, or a flow chart.
Yeah,
I would say a flow chart. Like, is it a meme? Yes or no? If it's yes, post it. If it's not, throw it in the trash and throw your computer out.
So, dude, do you come from a religious family? How did you end up where you are, philosophically?
So I grew up in an extremely Catholic family, and I didn't think they'd ever find out about this. I was like, oh, I am so sly. No one will ever know about my Satan thing.
Right.
And then I was, I grew up Catholic. I believed in Catholicism until I was about 20, and then I was like, this doesn't add up at all. Like, how come, Jesus had to do all this stuff and his dad was kind of a jerk about it? Kind of feels like something that, that I had to go through. But, like, you got to do this because your dad said so. And like, the allegory sort of broke for me. And I ended up sort of breaking off from that. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll be sort of just like an atheist because that calls to me. And then I realized that a lot of the atheist community is super awesome, but then there's that small subsect that is sort of what I would consider to be worse than the Christian groups, that is like out there screaming all the time about like, no, you can't believe in God because you're an idiot because there's no evidence. And like, when it becomes so aggressive, I just couldn't do it anymore because I fell into that trap because I was so butthurt because I felt like I was lied to for 20-something years.
Sure.
And then, I decided like, hey, what's going on with the Satanism thing? That seems all right. I got into Church of Satan for a while, and then I was really interested in LaVey. I kept reading about LaVey. And then I saw their price tag to join and the fact that like legally they shouldn't really be a group anymore after the divorce between LaVey and his wife, because that was supposed to dissolve the LLC and all this stuff. And I was like, this feels just as icky as the Catholic Church to me right now.
Yeah.
So I went into the ether of like, whatever, dude, I'll just be me. And then TST sort of sprung up when I was watching it very closely and, thought I subscribed to it, but didn't really. I was so, I don't know, what's the word that we're looking for here? Disenfranchised by everything that I was like, this is probably going to suck. These people probably suck. And then I met a few people and I was like, okay, these people only kind of suck and I kind of suck, so we're good. And that's sort of what led me down the road from like staunch Catholic that was like, and I will never have sex until marriage, to like, hey, what's going on over here? Like, let's go meet some weird dudes in the bar and talk about Satan.
Right. So was there a particular moment in an irreligious epiphany that you just didn't buy Catholicism anymore, or was it a slow, gradual process? I
think it was a slow, gradual process, but I definitely 100% realized that I was being a complete ass when I went to Emerson College, which, if you're not aware, listeners, is one of the most gay-friendly schools in the country, and was pioneering in the sort of non-gendered bathrooms and all these elements that are becoming more of a national conversation. And I was very much of the epitome of this idea that like, oh no, I am the epitome of Catholicism. I cannot be okay with this, yada, yada, yada. And then I was like, wait, these people are all right. Like, why do I care if they get married and put stuff in each other's holes? Like, that's cool. Like, do you want, guys? I'm in, So, I mean, talking to more and more people, being exposed to more and more people, I realized that I was just kind of I was being a sheep and not the shepherd. And so that was sort of, I think my breaking point was sitting in class behind a wonderful woman named Andy, who sat there and was talking about how she was going to get married soon, and she was so excited, and she was like, what do you think about gay marriage? And I was like, I don't believe in it. She's like, why don't you believe I should get married? And I was like, you got me, dude. Like, I got nothing here. Like, I had absolutely no real response besides like I'm kind of an asshole. So I think that's what really like made me realize that this idea of compassion, this idea of love that I was taught since I was a child, was really only a mask of fear. And I'd rather follow just this idea of loving other people and helping them rather than being like, well, I don't know because God said no, maybe, kind of, sort of. Depending on like which edition of which book you're reading and what like time. It's like trying to follow the DC comic book universe right now. You have no idea what's canon and what's not. You have no idea what's like afterworld because everything going on in the Bible is out of control.
So how did your folks find out about your Satanism?
So I biffed it and I went on TV and didn't think about it. I was like, oh, man. I was like, my parents are old. They're asleep at 6:30. There's no way they'll watch this news story. And then
were you like on Channel 7 News?
I was on Fox 25 and Channel 7. And I was like, there's no way they'll watch local public news. And then I forgot my dad's retired. And he was sitting on the couch, and I get a phone call at 6:35, exactly at the end of the segment. And he goes, what the fuck are you doing? And I didn't need like any other context clues to know what was going on. And I was like, yeah, dude, don't worry about it. And he did not like that.
So what was the story? What were you being interviewed for?
The after-school Satan clubs. And so already like a couple strikes. We got Satan with kids. We got his son talking about it on TV using his real legal name. We have me, with my tattoos visible, which is another check against me. And it was bad. Oof. Yeah. So yeah, was honest. I would say it was probably one of the most uncomfortable moments for me because I had to explain to my very Catholic, very loving mom who's been supportive of everything, who just says, you're just an idiot. And I was like, yeah, I mean, we knew that before, but like now for sure we know that. And I think that it was just as painful as them finding out that I didn't believe in God, but now it was like extra butthurt because not only do I not believe in their God, but I've also adopted this, metaphor of the anti of their
anti-God. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how are they with it today? How's the relationship going?
So the rule is no one speaks about it and pretend it doesn't happen. And that is the most Catholic thing I could ever imagine is that my parents were like, and it never happened. And like, I will be at home visiting. I do it like there, because of how awkward it is. I try to do it like twice a year maximum, and they live like 20 minutes away from me. So I'm a bad son. But like when I go to visit, one of my sisters-in-law will be like, "Hey, what's going on with the Satan thing?" And I'm like, don't do this.
No, don't bring this up now. It's Thanksgiving. Let's all just get along.
Yeah, she did it at Thanksgiving, and you could see the hairs that remain on my dad's balding head peak in anger. And I was like, oh no, like this is bad. But
do your parents do grace over Thanksgiving meal?
They sure did, and I sure pretended I was doing it too.
You were just praying to something else. That's all.
Yeah. I definitely thought about being like, Hail Satan at the end, just to be like, what would happen? But then I realized, like, oh yeah, my dad's holding a knife, and that's not cutting this turkey. I don't know if I want to take that risk right now.
That's great, man. Do you have any brothers or sisters?
Yeah, I have 2 brothers and a sister, all of which are like, hey, why don't you not, do this anymore because it's dumb. And I'm like, no, I get what you're going for. Like, it makes sense, but I'm going to keep doing it. So, and I think it's sort of all following the whole, like, and we'll never speak of it again.
I think you could do a whole family therapy model on that. Just nobody talk about it.
Oh yeah, because that's healthy.
I know, guys, that already exists. That's like already a thing, and it's just called being Irish. Just nobody ever speak of anything, and eventually we'll die.
But there is definitely this weird through thread where it seems like on one side where you have people coming from, Catholic or Protestant religions into TST, where their families look at the Satanic Temple and assume that it's all literal. And then on the atheist side, you've got people looking and understanding it's a metaphor and saying, but why do you need that metaphor?
Yep. And I would say that.
So it's almost like TST is kind of trying to redefine what the religious space is in the United States, or at least in the Western world.
Yep. And I think that's sort of the hardest part, is sitting here and going, this metaphor is this complete idea and sort of attack against the status quo. And it's necessary to use this metaphor to get the kind of message that we're doing through. But what actually ends up happening is that people end up getting stuck on just the metaphor, and they can't even think of the potential of what else could be happening.
Well, it definitely happens with Christians and Muslims and whatnot, but on the atheist side of that argument, it seems like it's not just anti-theism. There's an anti-religionist bent. They're like, why do you need this religious structure in your life?
And I would say that becomes the religion.
Yeah,
this like hate of religions becomes a religion to the point where it's almost concerning to me, and I don't want people to think that I'm anti-atheist, because I'm an atheist right now as well. I just think it's important for people to be aware and understanding of the fact that everything at some point can almost be described as a religion. I mean, our life and our drive to be happy could be considered a religion, because it's the way that we're, placing the value of something and the way that we're structuring our whole life around.
Yeah, it's more of a just be aware of your own dogmas kind of thing.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So how has the election of our current president affected the chapter in Boston?
We got a bunch of try-hard nobodies that immediately quit right after. And I think that that's the most important thing to note, is that everybody, that's spooky wooky, and I want to join. And then they join, and then I ask them to do something in their trial period that's very easy. I'm like, hey, can you guys spend, 10 minutes researching this before you post something online and look like an idiot? And then they can't do it. And then they're like, you're, whatever subgroup they are, they say that I am against them because I asked them to do some research before posting. And that's been great, because I understand that I'm a white man, but just because I'm a straight white man doesn't mean that I'm against you. In fact, it means I'm just an ally. So calling me homophobic, transphobic, racist, ageist, sexist, whatever else has not been great. But I've been getting some really interesting, accusations thrown at me, because I asked someone to, hey, maybe think before you post something, or now that you joined TST, make sure that, when you're talking about TST, you consider, what it looks like on the organization. Like do some, I don't know, that 10-minute rule. Like, hey, what's going on in my head? Do I want to post this right now, or do I want to maybe not?
Little known fact about me is that when I was in college, I was part of a fraternity. I know, right? I'm not very proud of this. But one of the useful strategies that they used to bring in new people or to educate them was having them paired up with someone who's already in the fraternity. So you have someone who's pledging, teamed up with somebody else that kind of helps them, shepherds them along in the process, so that they don't do anything too crazy.
Yeah. So we did that for a while. Mm-hmm. And what ends up happening is halfway through, the mentor comes to me about the mentee, and they're like, I want to strangle this person with a phone cord. And I have to explain, like, hey, maybe they're just new. Maybe they just don't get it yet. Maybe they need a minute. And then I realize that person also sucks. And then I end up kicking them out. So I would say that we were at our peak 25, and I'm probably going to cut it back down to 13.
That's our number 2.
Yeah, it's just you get so many, but they just suck.
Well, there's also, it seems like, at least my experience with any of the chapters, there's a core group, and then, which is somewhere around 13, conveniently. Mm. And then there's the broader kind of outside groups who you can rally when you need to for something. They're not part of the discussion process or anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I hate rallying that group, because when I rally that group, then they have opinions. And I'm like, oh, no, you don't get to not do anything for 6 months and then be like, I don't like the language you used here.
Right.
Like, nah, dude, show up and then you can tell me how to live, you know. I give them the same stance I give Jesus. If he shows up, I'll bow.
So as you think about the Satanic Temple, you know, next year after year, in the future, do you think it's ever going to become like a mass movement, or do you think it's always going to be a small, select group of people doing the work that needs to be done?
I would almost prefer it remains a small, select group of people. I feel that the amount of media attention, while very effective in getting the message out and rallying supporters, has also rallied what I would consider people that are ignorant and unaware of the cause as a whole. And I think we've touched on that a few different ways, but one of the most upsetting things for me is when someone shows up and declares, you know, like, this is the new cause, and tries to basically push their own agenda down.
Right.
Yeah.
We had an argument this is some deep TST knowledge I'm about to drop. There's an argument on like the TST forum about like, is veganism the correct form of Satanism? At which point I posted like, are you a fucking idiot? Because like this idea that you can say this is morally superior because it aligns with these tenets that are clearly written in a way that says they should be loosely interpreted is insane to me. And the fact that I have to explain to someone like, no, you don't get to tell someone else that they're wrong without them being able to tell you that you're also wrong and probably an asshole. Like, and it's so critical to the faith to be able to acknowledge that there is this right to offend, but there's also a demand to be empathetic. So the hardest part is that people join and they either latch on to empathy or they latch on to right to offend, and then they get butthurt when someone offends them. And it's crazy.
Well, I think there's a weird confusion there where, like, I mean, because individualism is so intrinsic to the idea, there's this weird thing where people want to glom TST's name onto the thing, but there's also this part where you just want to say, well, dude, if that's your thing, go do it. Just, it's not a thing that's part of, you know, anything that the group is doing as a whole.
Yeah, and I think Stu put it best in a conversation with me where he said, before you know it, we'll be out in the ocean saving the whales. I think that's the most like accurate description of what can happen if you try to apply this very broad idea on individualism to the group as a whole, because you're allowed to do whatever you want to do. But there is this aspect that you need to take a step back, think about what you're about to do and say, consider the ramifications, and then act on it. The problem is that everyone joins and they're like, well, I'm a Satanist now, no rules. And then they try to live like it's the goddamn Hunger Games. And like, guess what? Your actions still have consequences. And guess what? The government is absolutely monitoring everything TST does, especially under the current administration. Like, think before you act, people.
Yeah.
Hey, so Travis, I'm sure that you're an avid listener of the Naked Dinah podcast and all of our many episodes, and you know what's coming up. What's coming up is our question. If there's anything you wanted us to ask you, but we didn't, if there's anything you really want to talk about, we're not talking about plugs. We're talking about any kind of content, anything, any kind of subject you want to touch on. This is your time.
I feel like one thing that we didn't talk about that could be sort of a whole nother topic that you guys might want to sort of investigate is just this idea behind the attack on atheism and secular religions as a whole that is increasing in power to the point where we're seeing what was once a mighty empire of Christianity in the U.S. pushed down to now its lowest point in like a century. Now it is simply a beast that's wounded and lashing its tail at the great Leviathan that it believes it sees. And I wonder what you guys are seeing as the option on how to sort of combat the battle that we're entering without sort of having to, you know, resort exclusively to relying on groups like TST, who can, you know, put their lives, their personal information, and their jobs on the line every time they want to speak out against something like this.
You want to start with that, Jack?
Well, I mean, putting those things, I think one of the things that a lot of people in TST do is that they'll do their stuff under a pen name of some sort or another, which tends to at least mitigate circumstances a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's an option, but I see why people do it. I also don't really think it's the best idea, and I think that it's mainly because what it does, or maybe let me rephrase that. I think I understand why people use a pseudonym, and I don't think it's the best idea for a spokesperson to have a pseudonym, because when that spokesperson has a pseudonym, it becomes a hunt for the media to find it. And that is where other people who do use pseudonyms might be revealed unnecessarily. So maybe that is this is going to be a fun metaphor, the cross to bear. That we have people that are willing to put their livelihood on the line to speak to things. I'm not saying that should be like a national thing, but it's definitely something we've agreed to in Boston, where I use my legal name. I didn't really want to, but it didn't take long for them to find me out. And the same thing with my spokesperson, Patrick, who uses his legal name. We try to be as, open with who we are. And luckily, we live in a part of the country where you can do that. I'm sure other parts of the country aren't as lucky as us. So it's sort of this is a jar of worms I should not have opened, because it is so complicated. Because I can't imagine, Jack, what you guys have going on in your neck of the woods. Up here, I just need to worry about like an old woman yelling at me, or some young college guy trying to spit at me, but he's too busy also holding his 40, so he kind of just drops both.
Right. Well, I do think that is an interesting point. If you're going to get involved into any sort of group like this, and it's not just TST. There are other things like Sunday Assembly and that kind of stuff, where if you're getting involved in it, you need to seriously think about what the ramifications are for your livelihood and whatnot, right? Like, I know, like, the job that I have, nobody cares. It's fine. Mm-hmm. But there are people who have jobs where it's just like, nope, this is going to be an issue. And you don't sacrifice your job for, you need to eat. Don't be weird.
I think when you're doing any kind of activism, or you always have to be going in with your eyes wide open. So when I go, in the times that I've gone up on stage and told jokes or done, political stuff, there's a part of me that goes, what it takes that stoic attitude, the Marcus Aurelius, didn't he write in Meditations, I've had a good run. If it ends now, it ends now kind of attitude. So maybe that's a little dark. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe what I'm really thinking, and that I really am sort of trying to get out in my very obtuse early Saturday morning, very tired manner, is that when doing activism and choosing a religion and choosing to be sort of the foreperson of that religion, you should be prepared for the potential lashing that the media and the general public will give you, especially with the push for religious protection of a small subsect of religions being protected, but not Satanism and other sort of what would be considered fringe religions. So just, I guess the overall advice I would give, and the message I think that needs to be sort of thrown out there more, is no matter what you're doing, whether it be atheism, whether it be Satanism, whether it be flying spaghetti monsterism, or whatever else you're thinking about doing, think about what you could lose, and if you're willing to lose that, and if you believe this strongly about something, or if you don't. Because I feel like a lot of people right now are angry and upset, but they're also still comfortable. And until that day you wake up and you look in the mirror with nothing but anger at what your country's become, what your civilization is turning to, you're not going to be prepared to lose at all. And I think that's very critical here.
Yeah. There is just to touch on what you're saying, is that there's a big difference between joining your local humanist group and joining the the TST.
Yeah, and I feel like that's something that's lost on the majority of people. Also, a lot of people need to realize that joining TST is not a dating app. So please stop. That's my throw out there. Please stop trying to fuck each other, because it makes my day a lot harder.
Maybe that's a good place to stop.
I think that's
and scene. So, Travis, where can people find you online?
They can find us by searching the Satanic Temple-Boston in Facebook. The actual URL is facebook.com/the Satanic Temple-Boston. And that's it, I guess. I guess there's no end to that.
All right. Well, that's pretty cool.
Fantastic.
Well, thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It was wonderful.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
That's what we're about here. Fun, enlightenment, and somewhat depressing conversations at times. Yay!
I mean, thanks for having me. And on an end note, when you die, that's it, guys. That's it. So, back to depression. Hope everyone.
Yay! Okay, man. Well, thanks again.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thanks, Travis.